Could you benefit from building supreme confidence? What would change for you if you played your best when under pressure? What's it costing you to not have the confidence, the poise, and skill to execute when your team needs you most? I've created an exclusive training video designed just for you. I outline the 3 critical keys to building unshakable supreme confidence and dominating under pressure. You'll also find out how you can apply these to your career today so that you can start to speed up your results and follow a predictable system to get you to your goals. Go to imnotyou.com/dominate under pressure. You can go ahead and access that free training. In less than 2 minutes, you'll be learning exactly what I teach my high-performance professional athletes and clients about what it takes to dominate. Again, imnotyou.com/dominate under pressure.
If you try to get right, then you listen to my dad. He's a beast. And if you don't want to listen to him, okay, you don't want to get successful. If you ain't trying to dominate, man, then go listen to something else.
Welcome, athletes, top performers, and all those looking to gain that killer instinct, that edge you need to dominate in any environment. This is the Sports Motivation Podcast, and I'm your host, Niyi Sobo. I played ball and succeeded at the highest levels, and I'm now committed to showing you how you can accomplish the ambitious goals and visions that you have. This podcast is designed to teach you high-level strategy, not just fluff and hype. This will cut to the core if you let it. And by taking action on the practical and next-level advice I share, you will see results. Expect that. Expect to be more confident. Expect to be more focused. Expect to be more decisive. And expect to be more fearless. Expect to become the leader your vision needs you to become. So listen up. Take notes. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Sports Motivation Podcast. It's your boy. It's me, Niyi Sobo. Hope the year is going great so far. Hope you've been listening to the podcast and not just listening, but acting on it. I've been giving a lot more practical, more actionable advice. Been digging deeper. I told you in 2017, we're just going to continue to go, but we're going to go deeper. And I'm all about going deep, man. A lot of people brush over the surface, and give you a bullet point list of things you got to do. A lot of times it's not that simple. Knowing what to do is not really that hard. I mean, if we're honest, let's be real. If you wanted to get shredded up, if you wanted to get chiseled up, if you wanted to lose a ton of weight, if you wanted to get good at this, you want to learn how to cook this, you wanted to learn how to do this, do that, you can go on the internet and find out all the ways how to do those things from really qualified people. Am I right? The question becomes, are you actually going to do it? Did you do it? And why didn't you? And many times that boils down to a mindset. It boils down to a way that you think about things. It boils down to your associations with pain and pleasure. What things are painful to you, what's not. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why today I'm going to be talking about reading books. And no, this is not grade school. This is not college. But a lot of us listening know the importance, know the value of reading, but we don't do it no more. We don't do it no more because when we used to do it, it was painful. We had to read things that we didn't like. However, I'm not necessarily going to spend a ton of time trying to sell you on the value of reading because I think that's obvious, but I'll do some of that. I'll sell you on it a little bit, but I think it's obvious. And I think by now you're listening to this podcast, you probably bought a lot of the books that I've mentioned. The thing now is, how do you read more? How do you really fit it into your schedule, make it a habit? And how do you maybe look at reading a little differently to actually get you to do it more effortlessly, where you're not always trying so hard? I tell you guys, I read a ton, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to lie. I read a lot, and I continue to up the ante and the pressure on myself to learn and read more. And I have a lot of people ask me, how do you read so much? And quite frankly, I don't really try to read that much. And I'm going to explain why in a second, but it's really just a mindset. I mean, honestly, it's a way of thinking about it. And when you can get yourself to look at something a certain way, you can get yourself to do pretty much about anything. And that's the truth. There's probably something that you do right now that other people have a hard time doing. And if I asked you, well, how do you get yourself to do it? You'd be like, well, shoot. I mean, really, it's just the way that I think about it, right? Because it's not like you have to try so hard. Every human being has limited willpower. Our willpower is limited. So if you're having to force yourself to do something all the time, there's only so far that I can go, honestly. That's why you can force yourself to eat healthy for a few days, but if you don't have the habits built in, if you don't have the right mindset around it, you're not going to follow through. And you know I'm telling the truth, right? So reading is critical. It's an absolute game changer. It's been a game changer for me. Reading is literally the reason why you're hearing me now on this podcast. Reading is the reason why I'm no longer a firefighter and I'm doing what I'm doing full time. If I didn't read, I'd probably be working at some dead-end job, living in an apartment somewhere, making about 50 grand a year, not having any impact on the world, and being really miserable if I didn't read. But because I read, a lot of really cool things have happened to me. And I'm going to show you why reading did that. And it's not reading, it's really what reading does and what it represents and what it leads me to do. All right. The bottom line is reading is one of the most cost-efficient, effective, and powerful ways to learn. All right. To learn. That's why I read, to learn. A lot of people read to say that they read or to act cool or to, I don't know what. Last time I checked, this is I'm not in college. I'm not trying to, get an A on anything. So for me, there's no value in reading just to say that I read. There's no value in that to me. I don't feel like it makes me look cooler or, or anything in that way. I love to learn. Now, the reason I love to learn is because learning fast is how you dominate. It's how you take over the game. It's how you succeed, by learning fast, right? Because the reality is that you and I are not good enough the way that we are right now. We're not good enough for our goals right now. Or at least we shouldn't be if we set our goals high enough. So the point is, we want to grow, we want to expand, we want to become more in order to achieve more, to accomplish more, to be more, to give more, to do more. Because that's what life's about, right? Life is about achieving to some degree. It's not all about achieving, but let's be honest here. You're not listening to this podcast so you can, run on the beach and, meditate all day. That's cool too, but at the end of the day, we want to achieve. There's something to be said about achieving, right? We like success. We also want to be fulfilled. We want to be happy. We want to give back. We want to grow. We must grow. And how do you grow? You grow by learning, right? You learn, and you learn aggressively. You learn fast. And ultimately, I know you want to dominate, all right? And so I grow, and you tell me how you grow. I grow by acquiring new information, right? And then putting that information into action. So learning something new and then putting it into action and iterating along the way. Isn't it how you grow? And I found that one of the best ways to acquire information, which is that first part, right? You got to get new information, is to read. That's one of the best ways for me. Now, there's a ton of ways to get information. Let me list them all off. Not all of them, but I'll list a few off. Reading, watching videos, talking to people, teaching people, having a mentor, going to a seminar. You can acquire information by meditating, quite frankly, visualizing, thinking. I found that one of the best ways, and like I said, most cost-effective, most efficient ways, most powerful, impactful ways, is to read. And because of that reason, that's why I read my ass off. That's why I read whenever I can, however much I can, in any place that I can, as often as I can. I do it. Because for me, in my line of work, and I'm no longer a professional athlete, right? But the same applies for you, is the more that I know, the more valuable I am. So go look at, Tom Brady. Go look at Russell Wilson. Ask them how much information do they acquire? How much film do they watch? How often do they learn? The more they know, the more valuable they can become and the more problems that they can solve. So as a quarterback, the more defenses you can thread or shred apart, the more passes you can throw, the more you can help others, the more you can grow. And the more I can do these things, the happier I am, the more money I can make, the more success that I can enjoy. And we all like these things, right? I don't like reading. Reading is boring. I don't like sitting down and sticking my head in a book and, just reading at a bunch of words on some pages. That's boring. But what I do like doing is learning. I like learning. That's fun. I like succeeding. That's fun. I like increasing my value. That's very fun. And reading is a way to do those things. Reading is a means to an end. It's not an end in itself. Reading is a way to learn, because for me, actually, learning is an end. I love to learn. And reading is just one way to do that. It's just a strategy for doing that. All right. So I don't read just, like I said, just to talk about it and act like you're cool and post what you're reading online and all that type of stuff. No, I share books with you all because these books have changed my life, quite frankly. And I want to share them with you so that they can change yours as well. All right. So what I want to do for the rest of this episode, which I'm really excited about, is break down step by step my strategies for reading, my mindset around reading, and some basic rules and guidelines. Now, before I talk about all these, I don't want you to think that there's only one way to read or that you have to follow the way I do things. I don't think that. What I do know, though, is that if you find someone who is having success in an area that you're not, it would be wise to model them. And I feel pretty confident saying that I feel like I'm very successful in the area of learning really fast and being able to take concepts from books and apply them and get next level results. Because much of what I'm doing right now, I had no idea how to do a year ago, but I learned how to do it, and I learned through reading. All right. So what I'm saying is that you can learn a lot from my model of reading and how I do it. And I'm going to share that all with you right now. Are you ready? Let's go. Number one, we're not going to start off by, going and buying a bunch of books. That's not what we're going to do. We're not going to go and buy every book that we see at Barnes & Nobles and go on Amazon and start ordering up and sitting down and try to consume it all. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it systematically. First, what you're going to do is you're going to decide on your most important goals and your mission right now for this point, at this point in your life right now. So you should already have that. Hopefully you already listened to the New Year's goal setting workshop. If you haven't already, I would go through that. Get really clear on what it is that you want right now. Like what it is that you want. Are you trying to start? Are you trying to, make more money? Are you trying to get a scholarship? Are you trying to get a new contract? Are you trying to win your first fight in the UFC? Are you trying to defend your title? Are you trying to lead your team? Are you trying to lead your team to the championship? What is it that your goals are right now? What is your missions? Because we got to frame what we learn all around what it is that we want. And that's a mistake that most people make. That's why people don't read a lot, because they don't know their goals. But if they know their goals and they know why they're doing what they're doing, you're going to read books showing you how to do that, right? So first, decide on your most important goals. The next thing that I want you to do is determine the areas that you need to get really good at, all right? The areas that you must master. A good way to do that is just ask yourself, what is it that I want? And then what's preventing me from getting what I want? So if you want to become a top performer, let's say you're a dancer, right? You're a dancer and you want to become one of the best dancers in the USA. You specialize in a certain type of ballet, let's say. Determine what you need to get good at and determine what's holding you back, right? So maybe it's that you get really nervous or that you have a hard time getting feedback and criticism. Maybe it's you're broke, right? Maybe it's you're broke and you're having a hard time with your bills, and that's, preventing you from training as hard as you want. So the areas that you must master is learning how to manage your finances and maybe earn more money. Another area would be managing your mindset and how to stay calm and poised under pressure. There's a ton of books on that, on your mindset and things like that, right? And after you do that, you want to find out who is a master at these things. Like, who is it that is able to advise you on these things? And what you will find is that there are millions and millions of people who have written books who are masters in these particular subjects. Now, just because they write a book doesn't mean they're a master. But because the internet, because of Amazon, God bless Amazon, Jeff Bezos, I throw up a prayer emoji to you. Thank God for Amazon. I love Amazon. You can find out who is a master really easily because they leave reviews, because you can read excerpts from the book. I mean, you can find out who's the master on these things. So you've decided your goals. You know the areas you need to get really good at. You found out who the masters on these topics are, right? Now go find their books. Go find their books. Go online, research, ask people questions. What do you read? What did you read for this? What's the best book to read to be able to improve on this? Find the books and then go buy their books without second thought. I'm going to repeat that. Buy the books without second thought. Here's why I say this. A lot of people overthink whether they should buy a book. They get really cheap and really calculated when it comes to spending $10 on a book, but they'll throw $10 at the drive-thru pretty easily without second thought. Does that make sense to you? No. If you can go to Starbucks and spend $8 on a croissant and a Frappuccino, you can definitely spend $8 on a book that may or may not be the best book in the world. It's worth it. Spend the money on the books. Buy the books without second thought. I never think twice when buying books. If I think it's going to help me, I buy it. And the reason why is because they're hella cheap. And the reason why I'm telling you that you should do that is because they're hella cheap. And if you're very broke and you don't have money for books, then you need to scrounge up $4 and go on Amazon and buy The Science of Getting Rich, and buy Think and Grow Rich, and buy Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. You need to read these books because you ain't got no money. So it would help you because the information that you'll read in those books will help you earn money. And I say that because they help me earn money. Are you following me? Buy the books. Change what you value, like today. Like, say, you know what? I'm no longer going to spend $200 on a pair of Jordans and have a hard time buying shoes or buying books. If I can buy Jordans, I can buy some books. You know how many books you can buy with $200? You know how many books you can buy with $60 a month if you decide to cancel your cable? $60 a month times 12. What's that? 6 times 12, 72. $720 a year that you'll save if you cut off your cable for a year. Cut off your cable for a year, you got $720 extra dollars in your pocket. That's $720 worth of books. Let me get out my calculator real quick because I'm going to say on average, let's just say conservatively, let's go $6. $720 divided by 6. $6 on Amazon because you can get books used and pay $4 shipping, right? 120 books. That's 120 books you can get if you cut off your cable for a year. Come on. That's a no-brainer. All right? So that's the first phase. You decided your most important goals, determine the areas you need to get good at, find out who's the masters, find their books, buy their books. Now you got a ton of books. So now what do? Here's what I do. Number 1, set a goal for the amount of books that you're going to read for the year. All right? Now, the number is not really super important. Here's why I say this. All this is meant to do is to challenge you to read more. The number of the books. All right? So it's not like you need to read 20 books in order to be successful. I believe you need to read all the time. You need to learn all the time. It's not about how many books you read necessarily, right? Now, how many books you read is a good measure for how fast and how much you're learning. However, the goal is not to just read a certain amount of books per year, but setting a goal for reading a certain amount for the year because you're an athlete, because you respond well to challenge, you're going to push yourself. So make this number a high number. That sounds kind of like almost ridiculous. So if you read 5 books last year, let's say you read 5 books. Let's say you've been listening to my podcast, you've picked up some books and you've read 5 books and you're proud of yourself. You're like, yeah, man, like, shoot, the year before that, I didn't read anything. Then set the goal to read 25 books this year. You're probably thinking like, what? 25? First of all, number one, it's absolutely possible. And the only reason it's not possible is because you haven't set the goal and it hasn't become a priority for you. Now, I didn't say set the goal at 100 books. You could if you want it. It should be a number that scares you a little bit, but that also seems doable if you're creative enough, all right? Now, if 100 books doesn't seem doable, then you be the judge. I'm not going to tell you what's a high number for you. I got the go, man. I remember when I first started reading a few years ago. I remember first year I read 13 books. Then the next year was 25 books. Then the year after that it's 60 books. Then last year it was 100 books. I read 106 books over the course of the year. This year the goal is 200 books. Now, will I hit 200? I believe that I will, but the 200 is not really that important. What that represents is how fast I'm learning, how much I'm pushing myself. How quickly can I take information, learn it, and apply it and get the results that I want? And I believe that because of the rate at which I learn, that has a big deal to do with how I've been able to accomplish a lot relatively in a short period of time. I've been able to do what some people take many years doing and compress it and do it in a very short time because of the rate at which I learn. Now, again, I'm going to get to more about how to read. And again, it's not just about how many pages you read or how many books. I want to clarify that. However, it is important to challenge yourself and push yourself. So set a goal for the books that you're going to read for the year. So set that goal, all right? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to break it down into a monthly goal. So if you set the goal for 24 books over the course of a year, then that breaks down into how many books per month? 2 books per month, right? Now you've taken this big goal and you've chunked it down. You're like, oh, I only got to focus on 2 books per month. Then you're going to break that goal down into how many books per week. If you're only reading 2 books per month, that's 1 book every 2 weeks. Is that doable? I believe that's more than doable. 1 book every 2 weeks, that's pretty much like a walk in the park. Am I right? And ultimately, you want to get it down to the pages per day. So if there's 200 book pages on average in a book, most books have about 200 pages. You divide that by 14 days, right? And you get your number. What's that? Let me pull out the calculator again. That's 12 pages a day, all right? So you've taken this goal that you have and you've broken it down to 12 pages a day. That's if you read at about a page a minute, which is, I don't think that's too unreasonable, right? Page a minute, that's 12 minutes a day reading. If you do that, you'll have read 24 books over the course of a year. That's big time, all right? Now, we did all that, but that doesn't mean that's what's our strategy is going to be, all right? So follow me. The reason why we did all that is because we want to be able to take this goal and break it down into the really manageable steps and say, you know what? This is actually really, really possible for me to do this. This is not that hard, all right? That's the reason why we did that. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to brainstorm all the times that you can read. All the times that you can read throughout the day as it stands right now. So you might be the type of person who's saying, man, I'm so busy. Like, I don't know when I'm going to read. Right now, just brainstorm all the times that you could possibly read. Okay, possibly. I can read, after, when I'm on the bus, I can read. I can read on my lunch break. I can read before work. I can read after work. I can read on my breaks at work. I can read in between classes. I can read on the bus to games. I can read on the way back from games. I can read, you just brainstorm all the times that you can read. And by now you should probably be you're probably thinking how much BS it is that you don't have time to read. All right. So brainstorm all those times. The next thing that you want to do is just pick one time. Just pick one time that you are going to read. One time, one period of time. So if it's pick a time that's usually recurring, meaning you can count on it. So for me, I do only have honestly one time where I know I'm going to read, and that's in the morning after I get done meditating. That's only one time, and I don't even read for that long during that time, but that's one time that I can count on. All right. And so what you want to start doing is pick that one time and start tracking those times in a row that you follow through on that. So I don't want you tracking the pages that you read. Just track the fact that you read at that time. So if it's at lunch, it's picking up the book and reading at lunch. It doesn't matter if it's a half a page, 3 words, or you finish the whole book. Just track that. Mark off an X on the calendar on the day that you read that. Mark off the X. As a matter of fact, I'm going to include that for you guys. I'm going to include my 90-day habit streak page where you pick a habit. For you, it's going to be reading, and you're just going to mark off the X. Mark off the X on the date. All right? Just mark it off. Cross it off. The goal is to keep the streak alive. Jerry Seinfeld, one of the greatest comedians of all time, was asked, how did you get so good at telling jokes? He said, I practiced every day. They said, what did you practice? I practiced writing jokes every single day. And he said, every day I would write jokes. I would mark an X on the calendar. And my job was to don't break the chain, Jerry. Don't break the chain. So keep just marking a big red X. And pretty soon you got a long ass chain. You got 90 days worth of reading. That's a lot of reading. And you just keep writing it. You keep marking it off. You keep marking it off. So you get to mark it off just when you just sit down to read. It doesn't matter about the pages. It doesn't really matter about the pages. And I'm going to explain why in a second. Doesn't matter. So don't track the pages that you read. All right. You just want to get into the habit of actually reading. So the reason why this is important is because once you get into the habit, success breeds more success. So the habit is reading, not accumulating pages, right? Isn't that the habit? It's to read and not just to accumulate the amount of pages. So if you just focus on accumulating pages, what you'll do is you'll get addicted to just accumulating pages. And you'll forget that the habit is actually sitting down to read and learn. So once you make the habit of reading stick, you're going to build on that and you're going to read more and more. So like I said, I only keep track of reading one time during the day, but I read several times throughout the day. Because for me, it's not about pages. It's about learning. It's about learning. So now I'm reading 4, 5, 6 books at a time. I'm reading them in different places. I'm opening them up. I'm taking them with me. It doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? So the next thing you want to do is you want to set the books in the house in different areas and read whenever you can. I have books in the kitchen. I have books in each bathroom around the house. I have books in my weight room. I have books in my bedroom. I have books, of course, in my office. Ton of books. I have books right next to my chair where I read. So set the books in the house in many different areas. Put a book in your backpack. Put a book in your locker. Read whenever you can. The next thing is you can read as many books at a time as you want. As many as you can keep up with. I used to have this thing where I can only read 1 book at a time. I don't think that's smart, quite frankly. There's too much information out there. Why would I spend like two weeks just focused on 1 book when I can focus on that book and learn some other things from another book at the same time? You want to maximize time. So I like to read many books at one time. All right. Here's the next thing. In the beginning, here's what I would suggest. I believe that in the beginning of creating the habit of reading, you want to finish the books all the way through. In the beginning, all right? And the reason why I say that is because it builds confidence and it gives you this really cool sense of accomplishment when you finish a book. It's something really cool about it. It reinforces the habit of reading even more, all right? After a while, what you can start doing is start mining books for gold, all right? So that means you can pick up a book, flip through it, learn something, 1 thing, 2 things, go to the table of contents, fast forward to the end, fast forward to the middle, mine for gold, and complete it when you want or don't. It doesn't matter. Complete it when you want or don't. But I do believe in the beginning of setting the habits of reading books, you want to finish the books. It gives you a great sense of accomplishment. But like I said, after a while, you can start mining for gold. I got piles of books on my desk. I'm like, I have so many books in my bookshelf. So when I read, I use pens as bookmarks. And the reason why I use pens is because I write in my books. And so if you look at my bookshelf, what you'll see is a ton of books that have pens sticking out of them. And those represent all the books that I have not yet finished, but I've started, right? And that I've explored. And so I can finish them eventually if I want or not. But the important thing is that I'm reading and that I'm learning and that I'm growing. You see what I'm saying? The next thing, I want you to keep track of all the books that you've read in a document. All right. I use my notepad on my Mac computer. It carries over to my phone as well. And I pretty much just say, I have a numbered list. It says books read over the course of 2017. Every time I finish a book, I write it down on a list. I write down the name of the book and I write down the date that I finished it. That helps me keep track for my goal. I have a certain amount of books that I want to read, per month, per week. And again, that number is not super important for the number itself. The reason it's important is to make sure I'm pushing myself to learn fast. It's about learning fast, all right? So I suggest that you keep track of all those books. It's really powerful. And another reason why it's super powerful is that you can share this list with other people. You can also reflect back on what you learned. So it's really cool for me to look back at the books that I was reading while, in 2013, the books that I read in January of 2015, the books that I read in, July of 2016, etc. It's really cool. And it also helps you remember a lot more, because sometimes I honestly forget. And just me going back and looking at the list of books that I've read, I remember certain information that's come up and I can access it and I can use it. All right. The next thing that I want you to remember is that be careful of forcing yourself to read books. All right. So here's what I mean by that. Every once in a while not every once in a while. If you're like me, like I remember listening to the podcast Entrepreneur on Fire in the beginning. And I love that podcast. And I actually was on that podcast a little later. And it was a super big accomplishment for me because I really love that podcast. But anyway, in that podcast, which I believe everyone should check out, it's a great podcast. He interviews entrepreneurs every single day. It's a new interview every single day. And one of the questions he asked him is like, what is your number one book, right? The book that you would recommend. And they always give a book recommendation. And for a while, I was buying like almost every book that people recommended because I didn't know a lot of these books and I was super intrigued with the idea of becoming an entrepreneur. And I wanted to know what these books were about. And these guys, of course, were very successful in recommending them. So I would buy them. And I would buy them with the hopes to read them. But some of them I would read and I feel like I'm forcing myself to read this. It's not really resonating with me. Not necessarily that I don't understand it, but it just doesn't feel like I want to be reading this. So let me make this distinction, all right? Books should challenge you sometimes. They should challenge you. And you also should enjoy reading books also. However, you shouldn't always go to books just because they're easy or fun reads. I have certain books that I love to read that are enjoyable to read for me. Maybe some of you guys like reading novels. I don't, but maybe you like reading novels or romances or whatever, right? Books should challenge you as well. And by the way, when I'm talking about reading, I'm not talking about reading romance novels and Harry Potter books. Not saying anything's wrong with that, but that's not really going to help you learn or grow. I'm talking about books that are going to add to your wealth of knowledge, that are going to help you accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. So books should challenge you, but they should also be fun. So you're ultimately going to be the one who has to decide whether or not you're going to give up on a book just because it's not fun or because it's really not a good fit for you where you're at right now in life. For example, sometimes I have to read books. I don't have to read books, but I choose to read books that aren't fun reads, but I know the knowledge that I'm getting is super, super critical for this period of time in my life. An example would be like a book on child psychology or something, or finance, right? Finance books are not fun. They're not sexy. Child psychology books many times are not fun to read, depending on who wrote it. But the information is super valuable. So sometimes it's like a workout. Sometimes you need to just push yourself and you need to get through it. And sometimes if a workout is feeling a certain way, it's like, no, do something else. Do something different. You don't always have to strain and force yourself all the time. So it is a balance. But I will say is that if you're only going to books that are easy or fun reads or, got big print, and really little, I used to do that. I used to only go to books that were like, a certain size. Like if it was a thick ass book, I would stay away from it just because it was like, oh my God, that's such a hard book. But that's not a good way to think about it. You want to challenge yourself as well. So sometimes you need to just give up on a book and move on. Sometimes you do. And sometimes you need to push yourself through it. Ultimately, you're going to be the one to judge. I always would err on the side of finishing it, especially in the beginning, just to see. Finish it. If you realize, that was a waste of time, well, at least you learned. You learned something at least. You should always be learning, all right? The next thing, read great books over and over and over, all right? I can't stress this enough. There are certain books that I've read 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 10 times, literally, because they're that good, they're that important, and they're that valuable, or the information that they're teaching me what they're teaching me is that important, all right? So you want to start, the goal of reading is not just to acquire knowledge, because knowledge by itself is useless, right? The goal of reading is to acquire the knowledge so that you can apply it. And so if you can read something and apply just one thing, that's a win to me. Just one thing. But you got to apply it. But if you approach it with the mindset and how we framed this whole episode right here, you're going to do that, because this is not about reading pages. It's not about reading a certain amount of books. This is not about reading just to read. This is reading to learn fast, to get what you want. And so when you read with that type of tenacity, with that level of intention, you will pick things up. You will get things. Another thing to remember is, like, every book that you read is not going to be the answer to all of your problems. So it doesn't mean that you need to apply everything that you've read in a book. Your instincts will be able to provide you with that information or not, whether or not you should follow through on it or not. There's certain books when I've read, I'm saying, oh, I got to stop everything I'm doing. I need to implement this system ASAP. This is the one. And there's some books that I read and I say, you know what? That was cool, but I got this from that, but I'm not necessarily going to spend my time implementing this whole system. But I still got value from the book. Ultimately, you're going to have to be the one to decide. But reading books over and over is a very, very valuable and important tool. It's like anything. You get good at things through repetition, right? And so the more you read the same thing over and over, you're going to see different things. You're going to pick up different things, and you're ultimately going to be able to start applying these things and getting next level results, all right? So I just went over a ton that has to do with reading, and I feel like if I would have got this advice several years ago, would have been a game changer for me. So my goal for you is that you actually listen to what I just said on this and really apply it. If you start off framing reading around, not about reading books or accumulating pages, but instead knowing what it is that you want and using reading as a tool for you to learn at an aggressive pace so as to get what you want, you're going to read a lot, I promise you. And you're going to surprise yourself. You're going to surprise yourself with how much you can read, with how much you can apply, with how much you can understand. That's the other thing. When you have a sense of urgency about getting what it is that you want, you tend to understand things a lot easier. That's why when we're reading at school, we don't really pick up a lot of things, right? Because there's no urgency. It's like, this is boring. But when you got to learn something, because it's life or death for you, because it's a matter of accomplishing your goals or not, it's a matter of getting where you want to go or not, you're going to pick it up, and you're going to pick it up a lot faster, all right? So set the goals for yourself. Find out who's the master. Buy the books. Set a goal for the year about how many books you want to read. Reverse engineer it just to give yourself a good sense, a good idea. Pick one time that you're going to start reading, one time, and then build on that and track it. Go to imnotyou.com/podcast. Click on this episode, and you will get that worksheet or that 90-day habit checkoff sheet. Keep the X's going. Don't break the chain like Jerry Seinfeld says, right? Disperse books all over your house. Read as many books as you can at one time. Keep track of what you're reading. Push yourself. Find books that you enjoy reading, but also find books that challenge you as well, that challenge your belief systems also. I'm telling you, you're going to have a great time reading. You're going to learn at a fast rate, all right? Keep reading. Keep accumulating that knowledge. I'm looking right now at my bookshelf, and I'm just going to throw out a couple books that I've read recently that have really changed the game for me, all right? Way of the Seal by Mark Divine. Powerful, powerful book. How to Do All Things by Mark Age. Powerful, powerful book. Financial Freedom in 8 Minutes a Day. Powerful, powerful book. And of course, 50th Law. You know, I talk about that book probably every episode, and I will continue to do that because that's how impactful that book is. So those books I just named right there, if you don't have a book collection, start them off with that, all right? I got books for days, so I'm going to be giving you several more, recommendations. But at the end of the day, you know where to find the books. You know where to go. Go to Amazon.com, ask your friends, research your favorite athletes, get a biography, find out what people did to be successful, learn from them, all right? Much love. Go get some books right now. As a matter of fact, that's your homework. Go buy some books and follow the system. Pick a time and start tracking it, all right? Keep going. I respect you. I appreciate you. See you on the other side. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to the Sports Motivation Podcast. Make sure if you dig in the podcast, go and subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. I come out with a new episode twice a week on Tuesday and Friday at 3 a.m. Eastern. And make sure you go ahead and rate it and leave me a good review. As always, I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Much love. One of the most common questions I get from athletes all the time is this: what is the single best thing I can do to reach my goals? How can I set myself apart from everybody else? Obviously, there are a lot of things, but the one thing that's helped set me apart was having a coach, a mentor, someone to show me the right strategies and how I need to do things specifically to achieve my results. So you could try to do it on your own, but you'll end up making many mistakes that could have been avoided if you had someone guiding you and coaching you along the way. 99% of athletes in the world have expert coaches to show them the things that they can't see. If you want to work with me as your coach, I want you to go to imnotyou.com/SRC and learn more and sign up for a free coaching session. I'll give you 60 minutes of my time for free, and I can teach you some dynamic strategies, plus show you how you can secure me as your sports results coach. All I ask is that you fit in this criteria. You're serious about your sport, you're willing to invest the time and money, and you have clear goals of taking your game to the next level, or some sort of specific results you want to achieve. This is definitely not for everyone, and I have very limited spots available for this. So, if this applies to you, I want you to take action. Go to imnotyou.com/SRC, and I guarantee you're going to take your game and your career to the next level.